Hey warriors! Every night life beats you up a little. Stress leaves marks. Worry creates cracks. Fear breaks pieces off. Disappointment wears you down. And when you wake up the next morning, your mind is damaged. Not broken, but damaged. And most people ignore it. They just push through, wondering why they feel weaker every single day. Here's what nobody tells you. Your mind isn't a machine that runs forever without maintenance. It's more like a house. And every day that house takes damage. A storm hits it. The foundation settles. The walls get scratched. The roof gets worn. And if you don't fix the damage, eventually the whole thing collapses. The ancient Stoics understood this better than anyone. These weren't soft philosophers sitting in comfortable rooms talking about theories. These were men who faced real damage. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome while dealing with wars, plagues, and betrayals. Epictetus was a slave whose leg was broken by his master. Seneca watched everything he built get torn away from him. They knew about damage, and they knew something else. You either repair your mind every morning, or you let it crumble. This isn't about being perfect. This isn't about never getting hurt. Life will hurt you. That's guaranteed. The question is, will you fix the damage, or will you let it pile up until you can't function anymore? Today, I'm giving you 12 simple repairs, not complicated philosophy, not fancy techniques that require an hour of your morning. Simple fixes that anyone can do. Each one targets a different kind of damage, and together, they'll keep your mind strong enough to handle whatever today throws at you. Seneca said something that changed how the Stoics saw every morning. Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life. Every morning is a fresh start, but only if you actually start fresh. Only if you fix yesterday's damage instead of dragging it into today. Before we start, hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs their mind repaired. And subscribe to this channel because we're not here to entertain you. We're here to rebuild you. And don't skip any part of this video. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal every morning, not to inspire others, to repair himself, to fix the damage before he stepped into a world that would damage him again. He understood that mental strength isn't something you have or don't have. It's something you build every single morning. Your mind is damaged right now. That's not an insult. That's reality. The only question is, are you going to fix it or ignore it? Type this in the comments if you're ready. I fix my mind every morning. Number 1. Throw out yesterday's trash. You wake up, and the first thing your brain does is hand you yesterday's garbage, the argument you had, the mistake you made, the opportunity you missed, the embarrassing thing you said. Your mind dumps it all right back in your lap like it just happened 5 minutes ago. And here's what most people do. They pick it up. They carry it. They spend their entire morning replaying it, analyzing it, beating themselves up over it. Then they wonder why they feel heavy before they even get out of bed. Seneca watched people do this their entire lives. Carry trash from yesterday into today, from last week into this week, from years ago into right now. And he said something simple but powerful. True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. But you can't enjoy the present when you're dragging the past behind you. Here's the truth about yesterday. It's done. Completely done. You can't change what happened. You can't unsay what you said. You can't undo what you did. The only thing you can control is whether you're going to keep carrying it or not. Think about actual trash. You wouldn't take yesterday's garbage out of the bin and carry it around with you all day. That would be insane. Yet that's exactly what you do with mental trash. You pull it out of yesterday and carry it into today, then into tomorrow, then into next week. Your mind becomes a landfill of old garbage that should have been thrown out a long time ago. The Stoics practiced something every morning. They would consciously let go of yesterday, not by pretending it didn't happen, not by suppressing it, but by acknowledging it and choosing not to carry it forward. They understood that yesterday has no power in today unless you give it that power. Here's your first repair. Take 30 seconds. Right after you wake up, before you check your phone, before you start thinking about your day, ask yourself this question. What am I carrying from yesterday that I don't need to carry today? Maybe it's a conversation that went wrong. Maybe it's a mistake at work. Maybe it's something someone said to you. Whatever it is, name it. Then say out loud or in your head, "That's done. I'm not carrying it anymore." It sounds too simple to work. But here's what happens. When you consciously release something, you're telling your brain, "This no longer gets space in my head. I'm not giving it attention. I'm not feeding it energy. It's trash, and trash goes out." You can't fill your day with new good things if your mind is still full of old bad things. Empty the trash first, every single morning. If this hits you, drop this below. Yesterday is trash, today is fresh. Number 2. Check your foundation first. You wake up and immediately start piling things on. Tasks, responsibilities, commitments, goals, expectations. You stack them higher and higher without ever asking one simple question. Can I actually carry all of this today? Then by noon, you're overwhelmed. By evening, you're exhausted. And you think something's wrong with you. But nothing's wrong with you. You just tried to carry more than your foundation could support. Epictetus taught something that sounds obvious, but almost nobody does. First, say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. In other words, know what you're actually capable of before you promise to do everything. Know your foundation before you start building on it. Think about construction. Before you build a house, you check the foundation. You test the ground. You make sure it can support the weight you're about to put on it. If you don't, the whole thing collapses. Your mind works exactly the same way. Some days your foundation is solid. You slept well. You feel good. Your mind is clear. You can handle more. Other days your foundation is weak. You're tired. You're stressed. You're already carrying damage from yesterday. You can't handle as much. And that's not weakness. That's reality. But here's what most people do. They ignore the foundation. They promise to do 10 things when they can realistically do 3. They say yes to everything when they should be saying no to most things. They overload a weak foundation and then feel like failures when it cracks. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but even he had to check his foundation every morning. He'd write in his journal about what he could realistically handle that day, not what he wished he could handle, what he actually could. And on the days when his foundation was weak, he'd adjust. He'd carry less. He'd focus on what mattered most and let the rest wait. Here's your second repair. Every morning, before you look at your to-do list, before you check your emails, before you commit to anything, ask yourself honestly, what can I realistically handle today? Not what would make you look productive, not what would impress other people, not what you think you should be able to handle. What you can actually carry without collapsing. Maybe it's one big task. Maybe it's 3 small ones. Maybe today is a maintenance day where you just keep things from falling apart. That's okay. Better to do less well than to do everything badly and hate yourself by the end of the day. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They just knew their limits and respected them. They built only what their foundation could support. And when the foundation was weak, they didn't pretend it was strong. They adjusted. Check your foundation first. Then decide what to build on it, not the other way around. Number 3. Fix small problems before they get big. There's a small worry in the back of your mind. Nothing major, just a little thing. A conversation you need to have, a bill you need to pay, a decision you need to make. It's small, so you ignore it. You'll deal with it later. You'll handle it when you have time. You'll get to it eventually. Then days pass. That small worry grows. It gets louder. It starts taking up more space in your head. Now it's not just a small thing. It's a constant background noise, and you're still ignoring it. Until one day, it's not small anymore. It's massive. It's overwhelming. And now you're drowning in something that could have been fixed in 5 minutes if you'd dealt with it when it first appeared. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than anyone. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Not because the past and future don't matter, but because right now is where you have power. Right now is when problems are still small enough to fix. Think about a crack in a wall. When it first appears, it's tiny. You can seal it in seconds. But if you ignore it, water gets in. The crack spreads. It gets deeper. It gets wider. Eventually, the entire wall collapses. And fixing a collapsed wall is 1,000 times harder than sealing a small crack. Your mind works the same way. A small worry is a crack. A small fear is a crack. A small doubt is a crack. And if you catch it early, it's easy to fix. But if you ignore it, it spreads. It grows. It becomes structural damage. Here's what most people do. They wait until problems are huge before they deal with them. They avoid the small, uncomfortable conversation until it becomes a massive conflict. They ignore the small financial issue until it becomes a crisis. They dismiss the small health concern until it becomes an emergency. And then they wonder why their life feels like it's always on fire. The Stoics didn't wait. When they noticed something wrong, they fixed it immediately. Not because they were brave, because they were smart. They knew that small problems fixed early stay small. Small problems ignored become big disasters. Here's your third repair. Every morning, identify one small problem. One thing that's starting to worry you. One thing you've been avoiding. One thing that's creating a crack in your mind. Then fix it today. Not this week. Today. Make the phone call you've been putting off. Send the text you've been avoiding. Pay the bill that's been sitting there. Have the conversation that's been making you anxious. Whatever it is, deal with it while it's still small. Don't wait for problems to get big. Big problems require big solutions. Small problems require small actions. And you have time for small actions right now. Number 4. Get rid of what's hurting you. There's something in your life that's slowly poisoning you. You know exactly what it is. Maybe it's a toxic person who drains your energy every time you talk to them. Maybe it's a bad habit that's destroying your health. Maybe it's a job that's killing your soul. Maybe it's a lie you keep telling yourself. You know what it is. And you're keeping it anyway. Why? Because removing it is uncomfortable. Because it's familiar. Because you're scared of what life looks like without it. So, you hold on to the thing that's hurting you and wonder why you feel worse every day. Seneca was one of the richest men in Rome. He had wealth, power, influence. But he knew something most people don't understand. Anything you can't let go of owns you. So, he practiced voluntary poverty. He'd give away his possessions. He'd live simply. Not because he hated wealth, but because he refused to be controlled by it. He removed what could poison him before it did. Think about poison in your body. If you swallow poison, you don't keep it inside and hope it gets better. You get it out immediately. You do whatever it takes to remove it, because you know it will kill you if you don't. But with mental and emotional poison, people do the opposite. They know something is toxic, and they keep it anyway. That friendship that makes you feel small every time you see them. Poison. That habit of scrolling through social media comparing yourself to others. Poison. That relationship where you're constantly anxious and walking on eggshells. Poison. That belief that you're not good enough. Poison. You know it's hurting you, and you're still holding on. Here's what the Stoics understood. Sometimes removal is the only solution. You can't fix poison. You can't negotiate with toxicity. You can't make something healthy that's fundamentally destructive. You can only remove it. Epictetus said it plainly. Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Part of what's in your power is deciding what gets access to your life, what gets space in your mind, what gets to influence your emotions. And when something is poisoning you, removing it is absolutely in your power. Here's your fourth repair. Identify one thing in your life that's slowly poisoning you. Be honest. You know what it is. Then make a plan to remove it. Not someday. This week. Maybe you can't remove it instantly. Maybe it takes planning. That's okay. But start the removal process today. Set the boundary. Have the conversation. Make the change. Begin the detox. You can't heal while you're still consuming poison. And you can't build a strong mind while toxic things are rotting it from the inside. Get rid of what's hurting you, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, even if part of you wants to keep it. Your mental health is worth more than your comfort. Let me see this affirmation below. I remove what's poisoning me. Number 5. Decide what you won't break. You compromise on everything, and that's why nothing in your life feels solid. Someone asks you to do something that violates your values, and you do it anyway because saying no is uncomfortable. You set a boundary, but then you let people cross it because you don't want conflict. You make a promise to yourself, but you break it the moment it gets difficult. You bend on everything. And when everything bends, everything breaks. Cato the Younger understood something most people never learn. Some things must be unbreakable or nothing matters. He had principles that were non-negotiable, not because he was rigid, but because he knew that if he compromised on what mattered most, he'd end up compromising on everything. When Julius Caesar offered to spare his life if he'd just accept Caesar's rule, Cato refused. He chose death over compromise. That sounds extreme until you understand what he was protecting, his integrity. The one thing that, if lost, meant nothing else mattered. He'd rather die with his principles intact than live without them. You're not going to face that kind of choice, but you face smaller versions every single day. And every time you compromise on what you said was important, you're training yourself that nothing is actually important. You're teaching yourself that your word means nothing, that your boundaries are suggestions, that your values are negotiable. Think about a building. It has load-bearing walls. These walls hold everything up. If they crack, the entire structure collapses. You can renovate other walls. You can change the paint. You can move furniture. But the load-bearing walls must stay solid, or the whole building falls. Your principles are your load-bearing walls. They're what holds everything else up. Your self-respect, your relationships, your sense of purpose, your mental health. All of it depends on those core principles staying solid. And every time you compromise them, you're cracking a load-bearing wall. Here's your 5th repair. Every morning, decide on 3 things you absolutely will not compromise on today. Not guidelines, not goals, non-negotiables. Maybe it's, I will not lie, even if the truth is uncomfortable. Maybe it's, I will not skip my workout, no matter how I feel. Maybe it's, I will not let people disrespect me, even if it creates conflict. Whatever they are, write them down. Say them out loud. Make them real. Then when the day tests you, and it will test you, you already know the answer. You already decided. There's no negotiation. There's no just this once. The wall doesn't bend. Marcus Aurelius had one simple rule that guided everything. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. He didn't debate principles. He lived them unbreakably. Decide what you won't break. Then don't break it. Not today. Not ever. Number 6. Let the pressure out. You're holding everything inside. The stress, the anger, the fear, the truth you're too scared to say, the feelings you're too proud to admit. You're sealing it all in, thinking that's strength, thinking that's control. But it's not. It's a pressure cooker, and pressure cookers explode. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire in the world. He had to appear strong, composed, in control at all times. But he knew something crucial. If you don't release pressure, it will destroy you from the inside. So, every morning, he wrote in his journal, brutal truths, real fears, honest struggles. He gave the pressure a way out before it tore him apart. Think about a sealed container. Put heat and pressure inside it with no release valve, and eventually it bursts. The container doesn't get stronger by holding more pressure. It gets destroyed by it. Your mind works the same way. That argument you need to have but keep avoiding. Pressure building. That emotion you're suppressing because you think showing it makes you weak. Pressure building. That truth you're hiding because you're afraid of how people will react. Pressure building. Every day you hold it in, the pressure increases. And one day, something small will happen, and you'll explode over something that doesn't even matter, because you've been holding in everything that does. Here's what most people believe. If I just hold it together, the pressure will go away on its own. It won't. Pressure doesn't disappear. It either gets released in a controlled way or it explodes in a destructive way. Those are your only two options. Epictetus taught his students something uncomfortable. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. You know what that means in practice? Say the uncomfortable thing. Admit the truth, even if it makes you look weak. Let the pressure out, even if it's not pretty, because holding it in to look strong actually makes you weak. Here's your 6th repair. Every morning, release one piece of pressure. Say one uncomfortable truth, either to yourself or to someone else. Maybe it's admitting, I'm overwhelmed and I need help. Maybe it's telling someone, what you said yesterday hurt me. Maybe it's confessing to yourself, I'm scared and I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it's having the conversation you've been avoiding for weeks. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be honest. You're not looking for a solution. You're not trying to fix everything. You're just letting some pressure out so it doesn't build to the point of explosion. Strong people don't hold everything in. Strong people know when to release pressure before it destroys them. There's a massive difference between emotional control and emotional suppression. One keeps you stable, the other keeps you on the edge of collapse. Let the pressure out, not because you're weak, because you're smart enough to know what happens when you don't. Number 7. Have a backup plan. You're living like nothing will ever go wrong. And that's why when something does go wrong, you completely fall apart. You have one plan, one path, one expectation, and you're emotionally invested in everything working out exactly the way you want it to. Then reality shows up. The plan fails. The path closes. The expectation shatters. And you have nothing. No backup. No alternative. No idea what to do next. So, you panic. The Stoics practiced something every morning that most people think is negative, but is actually the smartest thing you can do. They imagined things going wrong, not to torture themselves, to prepare themselves. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. And it gave them something most people never have, a backup plan before they needed one. Seneca would wake up and think, what if I lose my wealth today? What would I do? How would I respond? What if my friends betray me? What if my health fails? What if my plans collapse? He wasn't being pessimistic. He was being strategic, because when those things actually happened, and they did, he didn't fall apart. He already knew what to do. Think about a building with no emergency exits. Everything's fine until there's a fire. Then people die because there's no way out. Your life is the same. Everything feels fine until something goes wrong. And if you have no backup plan, no emergency exit, no alternative path, you're trapped. Here's what unprepared people do when things go wrong. They freeze, they panic, they make terrible decisions because they're operating in crisis mode with no plan. Meanwhile, prepared people stay calm, not because they're better people, because they already thought through this scenario. They already know their next move. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayals, and constant crises. But he wrote something powerful. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Part of that power is preparing your mind for what could happen before it does. Here's your 7th repair. Every morning, think of one thing that could go wrong today. Just one. Then spend 30 seconds deciding what you'd do if it happened. What if the meeting goes badly? Already know how you'll respond. What if you don't get the answer you want? Already have plan B ready. What if someone says no? Already know what you'll do next. What if you fail? Already know how you'll recover. You're not manifesting problems. You're removing panic from the equation. Because when things go wrong, and they will, you won't have to figure out what to do while you're drowning. You'll already know. Backup plans aren't pessimistic. They're smart. And they're the difference between people who survive crises and people who get destroyed by them. Number 8. Clear the junk first. Your phone is on your nightstand. Your alarm goes off. And before your eyes are fully open, before you've taken a full breath, before you've had a single thought of your own, your hand reaches for it. And in that moment, you've lost the day. Within seconds, your mind is flooded. Emails, messages, news, other people's opinions, other people's problems, other people's emergencies. Your brain, which was fresh and clear 30 seconds ago, is now cluttered with information that has nothing to do with what you need to do today. The Stoics were obsessed with protecting their mornings, not because they were antisocial, because they understood something most people ignore. The first thoughts that enter your mind set the tone for everything that follows. Let garbage in first, and your whole day runs on garbage. Epictetus taught in a simple school with almost nothing in it. No luxuries, no distractions, no clutter, just the essential tools for learning. Why? Because he knew that a cluttered environment creates a cluttered mind, and a cluttered mind can't think clearly. Think about trying to work in a room filled with trash, papers everywhere, junk piled up, stuff covering every surface. You can't focus, you can't think, you can't create. Not because you're incapable, but because the environment is chaotic. Your mind works the same way. When you check your phone first thing, you're dumping trash into a clean space. You're cluttering your mind before you've had a chance to use it. That email stresses you out. That news article makes you angry. That social media post makes you feel inadequate. And now you're starting your day from a place of stress, anger, and inadequacy. Not because anything actually happened to you, because you voluntarily consumed other people's chaos. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't have to let the world into your head. You have a choice. You can protect your morning mind, keep it clear, and use it for what actually matters to you. Or you can hand it over to whoever screams the loudest on your phone. Here's your 8th repair. The first 30 minutes you're awake, nothing external gets access to your mind. No phone, no news, no social media, no emails, no other people's voices, just you. This will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will tell you you're missing something important. You're not. What you're actually doing is giving yourself 30 minutes where your thoughts are your own, where your mind is clear, where you can actually think instead of just reacting. Use those 30 minutes however you want. Sit in silence. Think. Plan your day. Read something meaningful. Move your body. It doesn't matter what you do as long as it's intentional and it's yours. The world will get access to your mind eventually, but not first. Not when your mind is at its clearest and most powerful. That time belongs to you. Type this declaration below. I protect my morning from noise. Number 9. Put good stuff in your head. You wouldn't eat garbage for breakfast and expect your body to perform well. So why do you feed your mind garbage and expect it to be healthy? The first thing you consume mentally sets the tone for how your mind operates all day. Feed it negativity and you'll think negatively. Feed it outrage and you'll be angry. Feed it comparison and you'll feel inadequate. Feed it fear and you'll be anxious. Your mind becomes what you feed it. Marcus Aurelius was incredibly careful about what he allowed into his mind. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." He wasn't being poetic. He was being literal. Whatever you consume mentally colors everything else you think about afterward. Think about a water filter. Put clean water through it, and clean water comes out. Put contaminated water through it, and contamination comes out. Your mind is the same. The quality of what goes in determines the quality of what comes out. Input affects output, always. Here's what most people do. They start their day with junk, scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else's highlight reel, reading news designed to make them afraid and angry, consuming content that's entertaining but empty. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, anxious, and unmotivated. It's not a mystery. Garbage in, garbage out. The Stoics didn't waste their mental energy on useless information. Seneca would read philosophy every morning. Marcus Aurelius would reflect on Stoic principles before dealing with the chaos of ruling Rome. Epictetus would focus on teachings that made him stronger, not weaker. They were strategic about what they allowed into their minds because they knew it mattered. Here's your 9th repair. The first thing you read, listen to, or watch each morning must be something that makes you better, not just entertained. Better. Maybe it's reading something philosophical. Maybe it's listening to something educational. Maybe it's watching something that inspires you to grow. The specific content doesn't matter as much as the intention. You're feeding your mind quality instead of junk. This doesn't mean everything you consume has to be serious and heavy. It just means that the first input, the first food your mind gets, should be nutritious. You can have junk food later if you want, but don't start with it. Your mind will crave the junk at first. That's normal. It's been trained to expect it. But the more you feed it quality, the more it will start craving quality instead. You take care of your body by being careful about what you eat. Take care of your mind by being just as careful about what you consume mentally. Quality input creates quality thinking. Junk input creates junk thinking. It's that simple. Share this commitment in the comments. I feed my mind quality, not junk. Number 10. Test yourself on purpose. You avoid discomfort. You eliminate challenges. You take the easy path whenever it's available, and you wonder why you feel weak. Here's the truth. You don't know what you're capable of because you never test yourself. You stay inside your comfort zone, convincing yourself you're strong, but you have no proof, no evidence, no real test. And the moment life forces discomfort on you, you collapse because you've never practiced handling it. Musonius Rufus, one of the great Stoic teachers, had a philosophy that sounds crazy to modern people. He believed you should intentionally make your life harder, not because suffering is good, but because practicing discomfort prepares you for when discomfort is forced on you. He'd fast when he had food. He'd sleep on hard surfaces when he had a bed. He'd endure cold when he had warmth. Why? Training. Think about athletes. They don't wait until game day to find out if they're strong enough. They train. They push themselves. They test their limits in practice so they know what they can handle when it matters. Your mind works the same way. If you never test it, you have no idea if it's actually strong or just untested. Here's what untested strength looks like. Everything's fine until something hard happens. Then you break. Not because you're weak, but because you never practiced being strong. You never built the mental muscle. You never tested yourself under pressure. So when pressure arrives, you have nothing to draw from. The Stoics understood something modern comfort culture has forgotten. Comfort makes you weak. Not a little weak, dangerously weak. Every day you choose the easy path, you're training yourself to be someone who can't handle the hard path. And life doesn't care about your preference. It will give you hard whether you're ready or not. Here's your 10th repair. Every morning, do one thing that's uncomfortable on purpose. Not because you enjoy it, but because you're testing yourself. Take a cold shower even though warm is available. Do a hard workout even though you could skip it. Have a difficult conversation even though you could avoid it. Sit in silence even though you could distract yourself. Choose the harder option even though the easier one is right there. It doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to be harder than what you'd normally choose. You're not punishing yourself. You're training yourself. You're proving to your mind that discomfort doesn't equal danger, that you can handle hard things, that when life tests you, you'll be ready. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are made of." But here's the key. If you never face difficulty intentionally, you won't know what you're made of until it's too late. Test yourself before life tests you. Build strength in practice so you have it when it matters. Number 11. Check for damage daily. You ignore small problems until they become massive disasters, and then you act surprised when everything falls apart. A small crack appears in your mental health, a little stress, a bit of anxiety, a moment of doubt. It's small, so you ignore it. You'll deal with it later. Then days pass. The crack spreads. The stress builds. The anxiety grows. The doubt becomes constant, and you're still ignoring it. Until one day, you're not dealing with a crack anymore. You're dealing with a collapse. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but every single day he checked in with himself. He'd write in his journal. He'd examine his thoughts. He'd assess his mental state. Not because he was weak or insecure, because he knew that small damage caught early is easy to fix. Small damage ignored becomes catastrophic. Think about a car. You don't drive it for years without checking the oil, the tires, the engine. You do regular maintenance because you know that small issues ignored become expensive repairs. Your mind needs the same maintenance. But most people never check. They just keep driving until the engine blows. Here's what people do instead of maintenance. They wait for crisis. They ignore every warning sign, every small problem, every early symptom. Then, when they're completely broken down, they finally pay attention. And fixing a complete breakdown is 1,000 times harder than maintaining along the way. The Stoics practiced daily self-examination, not to judge themselves, not to beat themselves up, to catch problems early. Seneca would review his day every evening, asking, "What did I do well? What did I do poorly? What needs to change?" He was doing maintenance. Here's your 11th repair. At the end of your morning, before you fully step into your day, do a quick check-in. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. What did I repair this morning? Look at what you've fixed, what damage you've addressed, what you've improved. What's starting to crack? Look for early warning signs: small stress, growing worry, beginning doubt. Catch it now while it's small. What needs attention today? Identify one thing that needs maintenance, one area that's weakening, one problem that's developing. This takes 2 minutes, maybe less. But those 2 minutes can prevent a breakdown that takes months to recover from. Because when you catch damage early, repair is simple. When you ignore it until it's massive, repair is overwhelming. Most people only pay attention to their mental health when it's in crisis. That's like only paying attention to your car when it breaks down on the highway. By then, you're stranded, you're stuck, you're in emergency mode. Do maintenance, check for damage, catch problems early. Not because you're paranoid, but because you're smart. Number 12. Build something that lasts. Everything you're doing right now is temporary. The email you're stressed about won't matter next week. The meeting you're worried about will be forgotten in a month. The problem that feels massive today will be irrelevant in a year. You're spending your entire life on things that don't last. And that's why you feel empty. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He was the most powerful man in the world, but he knew that his power was temporary. His empire would fade. His decisions would be forgotten. His name would eventually mean nothing. So he focused on one thing that could last: his thoughts. He wrote them down every morning, not for publication, not for fame, for permanence. And 2,000 years later, his words still help people. That's what lasts. Think about your typical morning. You wake up, you react to emails, you deal with other people's problems, you put out fires, you handle emergencies, and by the end of the day, what do you have? Nothing permanent, nothing that builds, nothing that lasts beyond today. You spent your energy, but you built nothing. Here's what the Stoics knew that most people forget. Temporary work feels empty because it is empty. You can work hard on temporary things your entire life and die with nothing to show for it. But permanent work, work that builds something lasting, gives your life weight, meaning, legacy. Seneca wrote letters that people still read today. Epictetus taught lessons that still guide people centuries later. Marcus wrote reflections that still strengthen minds 2 millennia afterward. They built things that outlasted their bodies, their empires, their era. That's what matters. You don't have to write philosophy. You don't have to create something famous. But you do have to create something that lasts longer than today. Something that builds. Something that matters beyond this morning's to-do list. Here's your 12th repair. Every morning, do one thing that creates something permanent. Not just consumption, not just reaction. Creation. Maybe you write something, even one paragraph, even a journal entry that helps you think clearly. Maybe you teach someone something valuable that they'll carry with them. Maybe you build a skill that compounds over time. Maybe you create something with your hands that will exist after today. Maybe you help someone in a way that changes their trajectory. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be permanent. Something that if you did it every morning for a year, would result in something real, something built, something lasting. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Your life is your philosophy. And if your life is spent entirely on temporary things, your philosophy is that nothing matters. But if you build something permanent every single day, your philosophy becomes, I was here, I mattered, I built something that lasts." Tomorrow morning, before you dive into temporary tasks and urgent emails, ask yourself, what am I building today that will still exist next year? Then build that first. Leave this legacy statement below. I build something lasting every day. Your mind breaks a little every day. That's not a flaw. That's reality. Life damages you. Stress cracks you. Worry wears you down. Failure leaves marks. That's just what happens when you're alive and trying. The difference between people who thrive and people who barely survive isn't that thriving. People don't get damaged. It's that they repair the damage every single morning before it piles up, before it becomes too much, before they collapse under the weight of unaddressed problems. These 12 repairs are simple, not easy, but simple. Throw out yesterday's trash, check your foundation, fix small problems early, remove what's poisoning you, decide what you won't compromise, let pressure out, have backup plans, clear the junk first, feed your mind quality, test yourself on purpose, check for damage daily, build something permanent. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They faced the same damage you face, maybe worse: wars, slavery, exile, betrayal, death. But they understood something most people never learn. You either repair your mind every morning or you let it crumble. You don't have to do all 12 tomorrow. Start with 3, the 3 that hit hardest, the 3 your mind needs most. Master those. Then add more when you're ready. Your mind is worth repairing. You are worth the effort. And every morning is a chance to fix what's broken before it breaks you. If this video helped, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment with which repair you need most. Share this with someone whose mind is breaking. Subscribe, because we're here to build you up, not just entertain you. Marcus Aurelius wrote every morning because he knew you have power over your mind, not outside events. Use that power. Repair your mind. Build yourself stronger. Tomorrow morning, start the repairs. Your mind is waiting. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I fix my mind every single morning.